Well, hello, everybody, and welcome back to another edition of All Access Pass from Home. I am your cruise host and now your at-home host, Jason Venner, and joining me is an absolute legend today. I'm fortunate to be able to say that about a lot of my guests, but today, truly, truly a legend, a four-time Hall of Fame member, four different Halls of Fames. The man next to me is Felix Cavaliere. Felix, how are you, sir?
I'm well, thank you.
You look fantastic. You look happy and healthy.
Good. Well, as I said earlier, I've been blessed to have a wife who's a great cook.
You're going to come out of this 20 pounds bigger than you went into it.
Good shape that way. Now we have to work on the rest of the bod.
Where are you chatting with us from? Where in the world are you right now?
I'm in Nashville, Tennessee, approximately, about 10 minutes out of town, 15 minutes out of town.
And we were kind of just talking about this a little bit, but without going into too deep, how does the vibe around Nashville feel? In terms of your local news, in terms of your communities, uh, is Nashville doing their best? Do you guys feel pretty on top of all this?
Well, I really, quite frankly, wish they'd take it a little bit more seriously. I mean, I have to go certain places, such as, I have to have a post office, and I go to grocery, and of course, I go to a pharmacy. I don't see as many masks as I thought I should.
Okay,
I think that people really have to get. I think the city of Nashville, there, that's really the epicenter as where we
sure,
live.
sure.
But I'd like to see a few more masks and gloves.
All right. Well, hopefully Nashville will watch this and get on board with your requirements. Now, Felix, I know obviously you and I have had the chance to sit down many times, and you know a lot of our guests, and our guests know you real well. But we also have folks watching this that aren't necessarily familiar with our cruises. They might be familiar with you, but not necessarily the backstory that I know so well and our regular cruisers know so well. So, for the folks that are watching that aren't typically on the cruises with us, how let's take it all the way back. Let's go all the way back. You're born and raised in New York City, and if I'm not mistaken, you're a classically trained pianist, correct?
Yes, I grew up in a suburb of New York, and I was trained from the age of 5, and I did that for 8 years very seriously, 3 lessons a week, which was very difficult because I really wanted to play baseball, you know, but it worked because I got a great musical education, and just to continue the story, then I went on to college, and I was a pre-med student, started a band. Matter of fact, I went to school with Lou Reed. We were in the same class.
Yeah. Oh, very cool.
And then, unbeknownst to me, seriously, I got a I got a call. Well, I was working in the Catskill Mountains for a summer, and I got a call from a group by the name of Joey D and the Starlighters.
Yeah.
They needed some help overseas because their organist had quit. And to make a long career short, that did it. I went and, as a matter of fact, I think I've told you before, we worked in Germany and in Sweden with this group that nobody had heard of yet, called the Beatles. And I saw these guys with long hair up there. I saw the whole entire audience of females screaming, and I said, "This might be a good profession.
Yeah, I can see myself doing this.
Try this."
They're doing something right. What did you think when you saw them as up and coming unknowns, them being the Beatles, other than their fandom and the people, screaming? What did you think of them as a group, as a band?
Well, frankly, and I've said this before, when they did our songs, which is American songs,
Yeah.
they were all right. They were nothing special. When they did their songs, it was extraordinary.
Yeah.
And, at that time, people had not really been writing internally like a group, or you used to go to publishers in those days and get professional songwriters. But these
Sure.
guys, they were, with Bob Dylan, of course, were one of the first to start that. Well, that also triggered me to become a songwriter because it was unique. I mean, when they did their music, it was great. And I thought basically they were more of a singing group rather than a band, you know. And but it inspired me to come back, to the States and to try it.
To try it as in to try to your own band, like the Young Rascals, or and and when you say you brushed over some stuff, but let's not. We're in. Where are we going to go here, Felix? Where are we going to go?
Good point.
um, when you're coming up, how do you transition from classical into more rock and roll style, and even into the Hammond?
Well, I was in class one day. I was in junior high, and of course, we have junior high. We have schools merging, and who was to become my best friend in life was sitting right in front of me. Turned around, and he said, "Do you like rock and roll?" I had no idea what he was talking about, but I said yes. Well, when I went home,
Yes.
I turned on this little radio I had, and I heard what was basically Alan Freed, who basically
Yeah.
came to Cleveland, and that did it. I mean, I heard this stuff that I really had never heard before, and it just like I remember, like as a piano player, Fats Domino, Jerry Lee Lewis, uh, you know, uh, Ray Charles. I
Yeah.
said, "What in God's name is this?" Now, with all due respect, compared to what I was playing, it was easy.
Sure.
I mean, it was cake, except for the feeling. That's really what turned me on. Like, oh my God, listen to how these guys are playing. This is so cool. Well, went and tried it out on a piano. I could do it. Next thing I know, there was this band in high school, that, in those days, they did mostly like serious things like, weddings and bar
Yeah.
mitzvahs. So they asked me to join. Well, if you can read music, you can play. Simple as that.
And did how long did it take you to get the feel of rock? I mean, classical feel is a much different feel. Like you said, there's an emotion to it that's different. How long did it take you to start to find that mindset coming from a classical mindset?
Well, here's the thing. Like when you do classical music, I remember vividly. Like, I was doing this piece. I think it was by Chopin, and I just kind of felt like, what if I don't put my hands down at the same time? If I go da dong instead of dong, my wrist. She says, "You see this gentleman that wrote this song? That's how he wanted you to play it. That's why it's written down like that." And I said, "Oh man, I'm going to have a problem with this." The more creative you are, the more you want to kind of change and do things. So that's how I first realized that, oh man, this is a little bit too much for me. These guys are dead.
Yeah.
All gone. They won't ever know if I do this like this.
Yeah. Chopin will not be slapping my wrist. Yeah.
But the other interesting thing is they always say like, like R&B, rhythm and blues. When classical music played, the only drum you heard was like war drums, like marching, in place.
Yeah.
You had to get the Africans in the picture, man. You had to get them in, or you don't have any rhythm. I mean, there was no rhythm. There was all basically like War of 1812 overture. Timpani, boom, boom, the cannons. So
Yeah.
when I heard the beat, man, I said that I like this. I really like this, and I could feel it. I could feel it emotionally from day one.
And that's wonderful that you could emotionally feel it so vividly. You didn't have to climb into it. And was it this? Is this junior high? You're saying that you get into this. Was this the time where you recognized that this is what you wanted to do? You
No,
wanted.
I say pre-med in college, way
Yeah.
years. To, I had no idea, but basically,
Syracuse, right? You went to Syracuse.
and then I took a summer off, like I said, and then I went to Europe. And next thing I know, I wanted to be a musician. Of course, I was not too thrilled with that decision.
I can imagine.
They were not too thrilled. My dad and everybody in my family, my uncles, everybody, they were all medical people, which is why I take this so seriously right now, because I know what these guys
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
It's amazing. These guys are like, talk about heroes. Oh my God, you know. And I have a cousin right now. I spoke to the other day. I see he says it's surreal. So anyway, I've always had an affinity for that. Never dreamt I'd be in the music business. Seriously.
And a question I've asked you before, and I get to ask you again, like it's the first time. When did you know you could do this professionally? At what do you have a moment, or was there a time period where you thought, this is I can do this. I can make a living at this. I can do this.
When I saw the Beatles,
That
and I
was
realized
it.
these guys, you know, first of all, they were just human beings.
Yeah.
And second of all, with the exception of, of course, Paul, I don't really think they were like any level above anything that, I had heard or could do. I mean, I could do it. You know what I mean? It didn't throw me.
Sure.
In the classical world, when you hear like Van Cliburn or one of these guys, you go like, I'm not sure if I could do that.
Yeah. I don't know that I'm that level.
But this I could handle.
Yeah. So fast forward a little bit, 1965, correct? The Young Rascals.
Well, I mean, I skipped a lot of the story because obviously, we had a couple of obstacles in our way. Then it's called the draft.
Yeah.
When you get out of college in the
Yeah.
'60s, you have a choice: either get married or get drafted. So I knew it was just a matter of time before Uncle Sam was going to be calling me. And to make that part of the story real short, they just weren't interested. They said to me, "Look, if we get bombed, we'll call you.
Yeah. If we really need help,
Other than that, stay home."
you're fine, buddy. You're fine.
Now I could be a serious musician. Because
Yeah.
and I said, well, why should I start anything and then be rudely interrupted? Because that's what's going to happen. So that's what I did, and I was working at that time with Joey D had a club in New York, and in the band was two of the members to be Rascals. There was Eddie Brigatti and Gene Cornish, and I met this drummer through a lady I was seeing who was just phenomenal. This guy by the name of Dino Danelli, who was just magic. And I asked these guys, I said, look, let's give it a try. There was a little hesitation on their part because, you know, as a musician, you have to have work. I mean, it's a prerequisite for survival.
Yeah.
But they took a chance, and it worked.
And you guys hit fairly quickly too. I mean, all things considered.
My plan worked. I mean, when I saw them out there in Germany, I said, how about if I get guys that can sing and can really play? In other words, there's no holes here. We don't have any
Yeah.
real sense. I had guys in that band, which was the detriment of the whole thing, is that they were all had been leaders of bands in there. So they were like the guy that you looked at when you went to
Yeah.
see. I had four people like that. So when we hit, we hit. And I'm very proud of that because I mean, not too many bands, with all due respect, could hang with the original guys. We were hot.
Well, I mean, you were kind of one of the first, and forgive the word, kind of real, true rock and roll groups, right?
Well, yeah, and also a lot of the groups at that time didn't play on their records. They had
Yeah.
had studio guys, and then they showed up. But we played, and we added a bass player because we never had a bass player in the band. I used to play it on the organ bass, but it was something that really you could say, yeah, you're a real rock band.
And Sid Bernstein, obviously, you meet Sid pretty quickly there. Tell us a little bit about that connection.
Well, this gentleman approached me in one of our earliest jobs, and he was a nightclub owner in New York City. And those days they used to call them discotheques.
Discotheques.
That's how long ago that was.
Yeah.
So anyway, he said, I've got an idea. I'm going to start a club out in the Hamptons. Well, Hamptons, now everybody knows, but I knew the Hamptons because I didn't grow up too far from there in Westchester County, New York. So I knew, oh my God, every record executive, every famous movie person, they all,
Yeah.
this is gonna be very cool, very cool. So we got that offer. Next thing you know, my singer Brigatti goes out on a night off and gets into a really serious car accident. I
Mm.
said, "Boy, this is great." Now
Good timing.
great timing. And the job that started maybe a month from now. Oh boy! So this was a little bit nerve wracking. So I literally went to his mom and I said, "Look, this is it. I'm telling you right now, this is it. If we're ever going to make it, we're going to make it here." I begged her. I said, "Look, I'll watch him like I'm his dad."
He's my own. Yeah.
And that's where Sid Bernstein found us. See, because he came out there at the bequest of this guy who also became a manager at that time. But he saw something, and he said, I know this gentleman from the music business, Sid Bernstein, who, as you know, brought the Beatles to the U.S.,
Hmm.
So, he was perfect. They came in, signed us. Immediately, our pay doubled. Immediately. Not that we were getting taken advantage of or anything, but
Yeah, right.
it was just amazing. It was so much fun, man. I mean, what can I tell you? I mean, we had a beach house right on the beach. We go across the road to that night and the club. The club was just amazing. It was called the Barge. And a lot of people, when they come to see me, they say, "Hey, I was a member of the Barge." And believe me, it was an amazing experience for them and us.
Did you have a premonition at that stage? Because this is still mid to late 60s, right? I mean, this is still
Yeah.
in that phrase. Did you have a did you have an inkling at that point how good you guys were? Or I mean, beyond just the arrogance of the immediate, wow, we're good, was there a
Tell you, it's very simple because when we first started rehearsing, we went to my parents' house in Pelham. They had a basement. And I happened to live right across the street from a high school. And as we were rehearsing, a crowd gathered outside the first day, outside because it was right across the street from the school.
yeah.
So you kind of know, hey, you know what? We got something here, and you could tell because, it's kind of like if you tell a joke and nobody laughs, don't tell that joke.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with music. If you play and people like it, well, then this whole really literally groundswell movement started in my hometown, in Eddie's hometown, wherever we were from. The people who were like our friends wanted to be part of it.
Hmm.
I mean, it was amazing. I mean, seriously, I mean, I could tell you stories that were just, you know, like I mean, we had this one guy who maybe I shouldn't mention his name. But when we started working in clubs every night, seriously, those big lights they put on for fairs?
Hmm.
Those are huge.
The big like cannon lights that, yeah.
They were outside our venue. So I asked him one day, I said, "Who's paying for this?" His father.
Oh.
Credit card. Yeah. I said, what are they? Who's paying for this? This is like what you see at bazaars and fairs but that's how they supported us. I mean, it was magic, man. Seriously, we had guys. They were making posters. They were making stickers. They were when a bus went by, they plugged it on the bus. It was like a
A
movement,
movement, yeah.
and it was so cool, man. It was really just it was magic. It really was.
Is that you've had amazing highlights in your career? I mean, you're a member of four different Hall of Fames. You've had, four #1 hits. You've just had a laundry list of success. When you look back on that time, though, you didn't have all of that success yet, but you were generating a lot of heat. You were obviously talented. You guys were making things. You were the original creation, the original put together of the band. It, is that your favorite time of the group? Just because it was so
Oh,
new, or
yeah, because first of all, when you're with a group of guys and you all think that you think the same, which is a major, major, major revelation to me. But you're all trying to make it, man. It was just like so exciting, and I mean the whole United States was evolving into music now. It was like finally like uh, the English kind of showed the way,
Mhm.
and then this was happening over here, and it was freaking amazing. It was so much fun, and it was also very kind of like tense because, once you started recording, okay, well, you have to keep making hits, otherwise,
Yeah.
I'll see you around, bud.
Yeah. Next.
Well, that's what my parents kind of told me. They said, look, very seriously, if you're a doctor, a dentist, etc., you're a doctor and a dentist until you retire. You don't have a hit record, you gone.
You're now retired. Yeah.
Well, that kind of threw me. That kind of threw me because that's absolutely right. What have you done for me lately?
Lately. Was it motivational or was it scary?
Well, after you've had 3 or 4 hits and you realize you better have 5 and 6 and 7,
Yeah.
it's a, well, it motivated me to make a move in a direction that also changed my life, which was kind of spiritually. I met this gentleman who was a guru, and I went to him and spoke to him just like I'm speaking to you. I said, "Now what do I do? What do I do now?" I mean, we had "How Can I Be Sure" at that time. I think it was number 2. It was huge. And I'm
Yeah.
saying, what about tomorrow and the next day? And because I'm seeing all of a lot of people that I know, in the music business at that time, they
Sure.
disappeared. And thank God for your ships. They're
Yeah.
back.
We're bringing you back.
They were resurrected, just like Easter. Yeah,
He has risen.
he has risen because a lot of guys, they had one hit, they're gone.
Yeah.
Oh, now what are you going to do? Like seriously,
Yeah.
and that you see your friends, your peers, groups from all over. We were very fortunate. We kept going, and we're still going, but that's not the norm. So as I say, it took me into a great place in my life that, if anything, saved my tail. It was the fact that I got really serious about taking care of my body, my mind, and it really helped because here I am 112 and I'm still rocking. You know,
God bless you.
I'm still going.
You said a guru. What were there any specific lessons that he imparted on you that you'd like to
Oh,
share?
sure. I mean, so many. I mean, I ended up. I mean, it's a great story. I met this man. His name was Satchidananda. He's the gentleman who opened up the Woodstock uh, concert.
Hmm.
And he was just so cool. I mean, like when you meet a person like this, and you know, he's like your perfect father. You know what I mean? Because first of
Sure.
all, he was just so nice to be around. It felt so great to be around. I'm still in touch with the folks that were with it. There was a great group of us in the beginning in New York City. It's another story, but it was a great story how he even got there. But I did learn a lot from him. I mean, little kind of like bits, like that really are important for most of our sanity. Like for example, somebody, you offer them advice, okay? Well, you better make sure they ask for the advice because a lot of people don't like it when you tell them things. If you ask me, I can tell you. So he did these little parables, which are online if anybody wants to go to YouTube. See Swami Satchidananda, Satchidananda. It's about a monkey and a bird, you know, and he does these little parables about this uh, uh, bird is saying to a monkey in the tree, "Hey, look, man, why don't you build a nest like me, man? You should have a nest. You just up there like a little bear like that." And the monkey got so ticked off, he just went up there and destroyed the nest. So he tells these stories and laughs, and you just, like Maharishi used to do that too. Oh, I get it. So remember, if somebody doesn't ask you something, don't tell them. Little things like that. Little stories like that, and it was just really something that's changed my life.
That's wonderful.
It is.
Do you feel like it came to you early or just at the right time? I mean, if that makes sense. Were you at a place, if it came to you earlier or later, would you have been able to hear it, or did it come to you at the right time where you were open to it?
Well, when I saw him that day, I'll never forget because uh, I, I I met him actually at a television program, which I don't know if you want to hear a great story, but it's a great story.
None of us are going anywhere, Felix. Let's go.
I'm reading this book. It's called Autobiography of a Yogi, and it's about a gentleman who was a swami in India. Uh, he came to the United States, I think around late 50s. But anyway, it's just called Autobiography. It says, if you want to meet a guru, ask, he shall come. All right. I'm in New York, rock and roll. Hello, hello, hello. Get a phone call from this friend of mine who owned this club called The Scene. I don't know if you're aware of The Scene. The Scene,
Yeah.
you know The Scene, right? I mean,
Hmm.
Jimmy play there, Hendrix, Jose Feliciano, uh,
Hugely famous.
Tiny Tim.
Yeah.
The guy who owned it, he ended up managing what were Edgar Winter and Johnny. Steve Paul, I think he's passed. But he was always getting in trouble with like, he had to fill the place up. So we became friends. We used to go there and work for nothing. So he called us up one day and he said, I'd like you guys to come down and be part of this potential TV show that I've got on WNEW. Okay, we'll be there. Just finished the book. Walk in, there's a guru sitting there. Stopped. I said to my road guy, excuse me, I'll be right back. He said, where you going? There's a whole bunch of kids surrounding this guy. Where you going? What are you, crazy? I said, I'll be back. Take my stuff. I'll be back. This is a great story. I love it. So I go in. I said, oh my God, look at this. I just asked. Look, here's the guy sitting right here with an orange robe and a longer beard than yours. Very long.
This is my yogi beard.
Okay, I'll make it quick.
No, go.
Circle, around him. Everybody's seated and what they do is they go one by one and they go up and kind of, talk to him. They get blessed by him, puts his hand on them, and then they go. So when I got there, you know, how you look at somebody's eyes when you're talking to them.
Hmm.
You say, "Oh, I see where this cat's at." I looked into his eyes. There was nobody there. When you get on the ship and you look out that little porthole in the middle of the ocean, and you look up, and see, where am I?
Yeah.
And I kept looking, and I'm looking, and I'm looking, and he says, "Excuse me, you're blocking the line. Would you please move?"
Move
I never
along, sir.
saw anything like that. I said, where is this guy at? He's not here. Anyway. So I had to meet him, and then it gets even crazier because I was so embarrassed. I made a jerk out of myself. So I saw him going to the bathroom. So I said, "That's it. I
No,
got him trapped."
no.
Anyway, it started from that, man, and it lasted for many, many years. But yeah, I was ready because as you just asked, like you have the music business is really rough, and
Yeah.
you go in as a kid, and you think like, wow, this is great, this is great, this is uh-oh.
Uh,
Record companies, you you think they like you, but they don't really like you. As long as you're earning money, they
they
like.
like what you're doing for them.
If you're not, then
Well,
I'll see you around.
yeah.
It's like this gentleman that we have in charge, how many people he fires. You can get fired very easily.
Yeah.
That was part of the reason that I had to find out about this, because it's a tough business.
And before we get too far back into music, I do want to mention you were talking about your guru, and we actually have a relationship with Integral Yoga, who is the company that's based on their Flower Power cruise. You probably haven't gone and done them, and I don't actually. You haven't. They're new. We haven't had them on since last you were on. You would have seen them this year, or this coming year, I guess. Anyway, we have a relationship with Integral Yoga. And we actually do yoga classes on board. We do meditation on board, and it all comes from that guru.
That's what he started.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's the same work.
It is. It is. It's based on him himself. It's Integral Yoga is that company. So very cool. That story ties in closer than you think.
It's amazing. You see that?
Yeah.
I love
it. So you're talking about the music a little bit now. You're straddling kind of two or three, actually more than that, let's be honest, distinct musical styles. You have, your music and your style is popular on our Malt Shop Memories cruise, which is our 50s and 60s rock cruise. You're also very popular on our 60s Flower Power cruise, which, you know, as everyone knows, the 60s is really two different styles of music. You've got the late 50s, early 60s, and then you've got the mid 60s on, which are two distinctly different types of music. What do you accredit your ability to kind of straddle, not to mention the fact that you're blue-eyed soul, you have some jazz influence, and you have this, you have all the funk and all the different things that are built into you. What do you accredit your career being able to straddle so many different genres?
Well, again, I keep mentioning these guys over in England. Listen to a Beatles album. You know how many different genres they did on the same album?
Unbelievable.
Are you kidding? That's what we were up against.
Yeah.
That's the quality of the music. The other thing is that the radio stations at that time, they didn't have these kind of demographics that you have now. They played a lot of different stuff,
Yeah.
man. They played from folk to R&B. There were no lines now and then.
Sure.
You all know that changed with the advertising industry. Actually, that all changed after Woodstock. Woodstock, everybody thinks, oh, it was the greatest, the greatest. No, it wasn't. That's when corporate America found out that it was money here. And corporate America,
Interesting.
once they get their hands into it, it's a little difficult to make money,
Yeah.
in a corporate basis. And that's what we have now. It was great. I mean, like I say, God bless you. That's what you have. But those days, there were no corporations. They were little tiny firms, a little tiny Atlantic, little tiny Atco, a little tiny, Coral, and now the big guys came in, and of course now it's all about how can I advertise junk? Let's see. It's very simple. Very simple. I just buy time.
Mm.
Oh, I thought that was payola. No, that's buying time. If I buy time and play my music, it's legal, isn't it? Yes, it is. Interesting, isn't
So
it?
you really had to appeal then to a broad spectrum.
You had to be good, man, in those days. We didn't have
Yeah.
computers like I got over here to make you sound good. You
Yeah.
got out. It's as simple as that. You
Yeah.
know. And they tried to make you like certain guys, certain people who shall be nameless were so good looking that they helped them sound good. We never had that problem. So we had to sound good.
You're such
And
a handsome devil, Felix.
but I'm telling you, the talent that was around was ridiculous. I
Who
mean,
did you look up to in those days?
and well, I was a little bit, as I say, into the guys that I mentioned earlier, like the Ray
Yeah.
Charles, people like that. That
Sam Cooke.
came from. Oh, Sam Cooke. I mean, these are giants. These are
Yeah.
these are ridiculously talented people. And I got to know them and meet a lot of these people, and that's part of like Jimmy. I knew Jimi Hendrix, and you see guys like that, and you look around and say like, wow, man, and then later on Van Halen guys, and there's just such talent around. But I
Yeah.
mean, this diversity is what really we had in the '60s that I think really, really was a very important part of making a longevity.
Do you recognize now, when you look back now at, we're talking 65, so that's 55 years of Rascals,
Yeah, man,
which is incredible, first and foremost.
incredible is right. Yeah.
When you look at that span, and I kind of mentioned it earlier, and forgive me, I'm going to read because I don't want to miss any. And you look at 4 number one hits, you look at 10 top 20 singles, 6 top 20 albums, Grammy nominations, 4 different Hall of Fame inductions. I mean, and one of the biggest being, of course, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in '97. As you mentioned these giants, is it hard for you to put your name amongst some of those giants, or can you recognize rightfully your place in what music is, was, and will continue to be? Because you're a giant.
Well, I can recognize it. I mean, like I say, because as I say, in the long run, these are just people.
Sure.
That thing, like when you go, when we got in 1997 to the Hall of Fame,
That has to be a cool moment.
it was a very cool moment. And part of the reason was a lot of the people that were inducted with us. They're no longer here.
Yeah.
Bee Gees, two of them gone, right? Michael Jackson,
Hmm.
you know, so many of these people, they're not here anymore. So when you go into a room, it's almost the same as when you go to a class reunion. You know these people
Yeah.
because you toured with these people, you've been around these people, you know them as human beings, yes, with talent, but I mean, again, I go back to my teacher, and he used to tell us so many of these little stories. I don't know if this is sufficient, but I mean, we're all the same. Basically, you've got a talented. This when you need a plumber, that guy's the most important guy in the world. You know,
Yeah.
and if he can't sing, that's okay as long as he can fix my pipes.
Yeah.
Everything is relative, but yeah, you feel like you fit. The newer generation uh, that is out there. I don't know that they have that same camaraderie, that we had. For example, one of the big moments of my life is the Songwriters Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Songwriters Hall of Fame is kind of like unique in that it's not broadcast.
Yeah.
They don't have a place, a museum. They just rent a hotel ballroom and have once a year. And these people who are in that room, most people don't even know their names,
Yeah.
but
But they're responsible.
everybody knows their songs.
Yeah.
The way that they and we interact there, it's the way it should be, and basically, there's no hierarchy there, you know. Now it's kind of changed over the years, they need to attract more, outside donations, so they bring in a lot of people who maybe are not the Cole Porters, you know.
Yeah.
The people who are the Cole Porters, they all bring bodyguards. Wait a second. I'm
Yeah.
gonna from what am I gonna do? I'm gonna spill my wine on you? What am I gonna do? It's strange. That's not how the old guys were. The old guys that were there,
Right.
man, they were so good. I mean, they were ridiculously talented. These guys, just absurd. The songs that came out of their repertoire. You look and you go like, oh my God. So really, really, with all due respect, to exist in that hierarchy, it's a little tough to see yourself in that. These guys were phenomenal.
I understand that. But I just hope though that you can recognize, and I know I speak for Malt Shop Memories and Flower Power, and all the folks watching from other cruises, that you really do represent something unique though. I mean, you really are the king of Blue Eyed Soul. You really did bring you know you went new directions with music. You had a sound that wasn't every day. You went a direction that wasn't always popular from gentlemen that weren't, gentlemen of your persuasion, if you will. You took some chances, you took some risks, and you produced some epic, amazing hits and wrote some amazing epic hits. And I just, allow me on behalf of all of our watchers and the people that love you to say, you are a monster.
Oh, we had so much fun, and as I say, I appreciate that. We had the really good fortune of being on Atlantic Records too, which is
Yeah.
really amazing. Because this label, had guys, people. I mean, for example, there's this gentleman by the name of Tom Dowd, Dowd. I don't know if anybody's ever heard of him. Do yourself a favor, look on YouTube, see if his video after he passed. This guy was part of the atomic bomb. Yes. He never told us. He never said a word. This guy was part of that group that invented. I mean, I hate to say it because it sounds like a real negative, but how smart
No, but you
how
know,
smart can you be? Never said a word to us. Never said or mentioned it
an
to us.
American recording engineer and producer for Atlantic Records, credited with innovating the multi-track recording method, worked on a veritable who's who of recordings, Grammy Trustees Award, Technical Grammy Awards, Grammy Award for Best Album Notes, and on and on and on.
Let me tell you, those boards that we record on, those
Yeah,
boards,
of course.
invented it. We took a little strips and put them all together. The knobs that you turn, the things you push, these guys made this stuff. I mean,
Yeah,
these people, I remember, like, again, people who are not familiar with Ray Dolby, Dolby. His name is a household word. He used to
yeah,
come in and say hello to, I mean, the talent that was around in their field. You know what I'm
sure.
saying? if you're if you were fortunate enough to be part of that world, and not be in awe of these guys, then you were very ignorant because I mean, and Arif Mardin and of course the Erdogan's, they 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 really wanted to create great music. And if you look at, they have this, they got this big anthology of it. I don't know if you've ever seen the Atlantic.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Here's a story for you. These two sons of Turkish ambassadors came to the United States. You should look up the story of Atlantic. Anybody who would like to really see what can be done should see this.
The origins of Atlantic Records.
These guys came over seriously from their parents, their father. It was two brothers, Ahmet and Neshui, and they loved R&B. Now you got to imagine this. Now here's the Secret Service has got to protect these guys. They're going to every black club they could get into in Chicago, New Orleans, you name it. Can you imagine Secret Service? They must have been going crazy. And they
Yeah,
signed these guys and these ladies that were less, like legendary.
yeah,
Legendary people that nobody would ever have heard of if they hadn't gone pick them up, started a label. Now, starting a label is almost like, well, this guy Elon Musk who decided I'm going to go up against GM and these guys. They did it.
yeah.
Did it. And not only that, but the artists that were on that label were just, John Coltrane, Miles Davis, Aretha Franklin.
Aretha Franklin, Ray Charles, Wilson Pickett, Sam and Dave, Ruth Brown, Otis Redding, on and on and on.
Are you kidding me? I mean, so I was part of that.
Yeah,
So let me
that's
tell you,
amazing.
it was amazing, man. I'm serious. And you know what they wanted to do? I know they wanted to make money, and I understand that. They wanted to make great music, and they did.
Speaking of great music, when you look at your history of music, yours specifically, what stands out to you as your or the Young Rascals' shining moment? I mean, is it groovin'? Is it what's your?
Well,
That's a tough. I know. I'm just saying.
well, the thing is uh, the positive energy which stands out to me. In other words, like like right now we're going through this
Yeah.
period right now. That's when you got to listen to Rascal music. Rascal music is going to bring you up. We're not going to tell you, like, my mom beat the crap out of me when I was a kid, and I'm so sorry. You know, you're going to be happy when you hear our music. That's what I always wanted to lead. It's time to smile. It's time to groove. It's time to love. That's the thing. Now, any song that goes into that category, that's fine. That's fine with me.
When you were writing these songs, I mean, you co-wrote Groovin', correct? You co-wrote. When you're writing these songs, was that your vision? Was your vision picking people up and positivity?
I don't know if that's your vision. I think basically it has to do with your personality. I mean, if you're that kind of person,
Hmm.
because a lot of people, they're really like, they're really sad nowadays, man. I listen to this some music, man. I remember going to a New Year's Eve party down here in Nashville, and I'm listening to the songs these guys are playing. I said, man, this is supposed to be a happy night. This is supposed to be a happy night. So I started playing. I played like Ray Charles. Place went nuts. I said, what are you guys sad on New Year's Eve? What is it? It has to do with your personality and your outlook on life. And it's one of the reasons why me and my ex-partner there, Eddie, got so well. He was a negative son of a gun. And I'm the positive son of a gun. So we had a great team.
That's a good writing pair. Listen, before we let you go back to your beautiful wife's cooking, I like to ask every artist in all these chats, kind of near the end. Obviously, we're going through this pandemic right now. We're existing through the COVID-19 drama. What's your thoughts? What's your outtake?
Well, this is something to behold, and I think that like when all is said and done, there's probably going to be a lot of stories written about this. And a lot of the friends who I have who are like really religious, especially down here in Nashville, they're looking at this as one of those Bible kind of tests. And I don't know. I really don't know what this is supposed to mean, but this is pretty serious. And I think in the end, I think that we all realize that we've got to use some of these rules that are coming along now to, like, for example, when I travel to work and a guy or a person comes on that plane and starts coughing and sneezing, I get really ticked off, man, because I got to sing tomorrow night.
Yeah.
I mean, you're coming in here sick like that. Come on, man.
Yeah.
That's not right. I hope we learn that, there's such a thing as, you know, uh, respect for each other. You
Absolutely.
and that's one of the things that's going to come out of this is, you know, don't come on the plane sick. Don't go to work sick unless you absolutely have to. And then maybe you should cover your face with a mask. They do it in Asia all the time.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if we look at it like, okay, something positive is going to come from this, that might be one of them.
Yeah.
Uh, you well know the Europe plagues that they had in the older centuries was because of hygiene.
Yeah.
So maybe on a very, very simple, basic level, we got to clean up our acts.
Some human compassion.
No, seriously, and down here, one of the nice things about Tennessee is this is the volunteer state. So people really they really chip in and help each other. And this is very noticeable. And I think that's another thing that we really need to take out of this.
Well, I know we were talking a little bit before we jumped on camera that you had a bunch of dates postponed. You had a pretty busy spring lined up, and you guys had to postpone a bunch of stuff. You were talking about some Beach Boys dates and some other stuff you had coming up. I can only imagine how ready you are to get back on stage.
Yeah, well, my guys too. They feel the same way. Everybody wants to get, because it's one thing about most of us. We really like to play.
Yeah.
I mean, when you get up there, it's like you really become Felix, on the stage. Over here, hey, hon, the garbage has got to go.
It's a different reality.
Exactly. Once you're up there, it's something that everyone I know from zombies and my beloved spoonful friends, they really love being on stage, and that's what we miss as well.
Yeah. But you were saying you're doing a little work, is musical work in the house right now. Tell us a little bit about what you got going on right now.
Well, one of the nice things about the new technology is all of us have little studios in our houses, especially Tennessee. I mean, everybody's got
Yeah.
stuff. So you can really do music here. And when this all kind of hit, I was in the process of doing a new CD. You know, yeah, I had this idea. I said, obviously, look, why don't we take 5 songs that really influenced you, re-record them, and then write 5 new songs that shows that influence.
I like it.
Different idea. So we did it. And we did a Ray Charles song. We did a Clarence Carter song. We did songs that people. We did a Benny King song, Spanish Harlem. We did 5 oldies, and then wrote 5 newies. And it's a ball. We're having a blast.
That's very cool. When can people expect to potentially get their hands on that?
That's a good question. I should be done next week. As I say, they're in the final stages, what they call mixed now.
Yeah.
And the first time I've mixed on Zoom.
Yeah. Who knew? Well, Felix, I absolutely love you, and I appreciate you taking the time to be here.
Great to see you guys, and please say hello to everybody and your lovely wife. And one of the things that we have to say is when we do these flower power things, man, that audience has more fun than should be legal.
I tell you what, Flower Power and Malt Shop Memories both, they throw down. They do. Flower Power is exceptional, but
I took my sister and her husband. I've known him for 50 years. I never saw him dance in his life. They had so much fun. I mean, seriously, they're so excited that this is going to happen again. Seriously, it really is a very, very good thing for us old folks.
well, at the end of the day, I'm a firm believer that that adversity reveals character, and once you go through the dark, you got to get back into the light. And I think that what is going to happen from this is we're all going to battle through, and all willing, we get through it as best as possible. And then ultimately, what's going to happen is everyone's going to want to get back to life. Everyone's going to get back to these cruises and back to their favorite stars like you. And it's inevitable that soon we'll be back out. And I, for one, can't wait to have you back out there. So thank you very much, Felix, for taking the
Great
time.
seeing you. Be safe, and please don't forget to say hello to everybody, and love you guys.
We will do. Thank you so much. And to all my friends and family that tuned into this, whether you are a Star Vista Live cruise veteran or whether you are new to this channel, either way, thanks for tuning in for an interview with the legendary Felix Cavaliere. Thank you so much, my friends. Have a great day. We'll see you around.